I'd learned to read people by the way they entered a room. Tourists came in loud, eyes wandering over the faded red booths and checkered floors like they'd discovered some authentic Brooklyn relic. Regulars shuffled in silent, heading straight for their usual spots without a menu. Cops walked in pairs, always scanning, always alert. But the man who stepped through the door of Rosie's Diner at exactly 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday didn't fit any category I knew. He entered like he owned gravity itself. The November wind followed him in, cutting through the warmth of the diner and making the bells above the door sound sharper than usual. I was wiping down the counter, my third double shift that week, when I felt the temperature drop, not from the cold, but from something else entirely. I looked up. He was tall, broad-shouldered beneath a charcoal wool coat that probably cost more than my rent. Dark hair, perfectly styled but slightly disheveled by the wind. A sharp jawline shadowed with stubble. And eyes. God, those eyes. So dark they were almost black, sweeping across the diner with the kind of assessment that made my pulse stutter. He wasn't looking at the menu board or the vintage Coca-Cola signs. He was looking at people, cataloging them, judging threats. When his gaze landed on me, everything inside me went still. It lasted maybe 3 seconds. 3 seconds where I forgot to breathe, forgot the coffee pot in my hand, forgot my name. His expression didn't change. No smile, no acknowledgement, but something flickered in those dark eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or interest. Then he moved toward the corner booth, the one half hidden by the old jukebox, and slid in with his back to the wall. A position that let him see the entire diner, the door, the kitchen, me. 2 men followed him in, younger, harder looking, wearing suits that barely concealed the bulk of weapons underneath. They didn't sit. They stood flanking the booth like sentries. My coworker Linda appeared beside me, her eyes wide. "Holy shit," she whispered. "That's Dante Volkov." The name meant nothing to me. I'd only been in Brooklyn for 6 months, keeping my head down, staying invisible. "Who?" She stared at me like I'd asked who the president was. "You're kidding. Dante Volkov. The Volkov family. They basically run South Brooklyn." She lowered her voice even further. "Mafia, Cammy, Russian-Italian, and he's the head of it all since his father died last year." My stomach dropped. Mafia. Of course. That explained the way he moved, the danger that seemed to radiate from him like heat from asphalt in summer. "What's he doing here?" I asked, my throat dry. "No idea. They don't usually come to places like this." Linda grabbed a menu, her hands trembling slightly. "I'm not serving him. You do it." "What?" "No. You're better with difficult customers. Besides, he keeps looking at you." I wanted to argue, but she was already disappearing into the kitchen, leaving me alone with the weight of Dante Volkov's stare. I could feel it on my skin, could feel the way it traced the lines of my body even though I wore the ugliest uniform in existence, a mustard yellow dress with a stained white apron. I took a breath, grabbed my notepad and forced my feet to move. The 2 guards watched me approach with expressions carved from stone. One of them stepped slightly forward, blocking my path until Dante made a small gesture with his hand. They parted. Up close, he was devastating. Sharp cheekbones, a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled, a small scar cutting through his left eyebrow, and that presence, God, that presence, that made the air feel thicker, harder to breathe. "Coffee," he said before I could speak. His voice was low, rough, with the faintest accent smoothing the edges of his words. "Black." "Anything else?" I asked, proud that my voice didn't shake. His eyes lifted to mine and I felt the impact of his full attention like a physical touch. He studied me for a long moment, long enough that heat crept up my neck, before his gaze dropped to my name tag. "Cammy," he read slowly, like he was tasting the syllables. "Short for Camilla?" I shouldn't have answered. And I should have kept it professional, taken his order, walked away. Camille. French? My mother's choice. The coffee? The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. Just coffee. For now. I nodded and turned, feeling his eyes on me the entire walk back to the counter. My hands shook as I poured the coffee, black as he'd ordered, and I hated myself for the reaction. I'd spent 6 months building walls, becoming invisible, erasing the woman I used to be. One look from a dangerous man shouldn't have the power to crack those walls. But when I brought the coffee back, set it carefully on the table in front of him, his fingers brushed mine as he reached for the cup. The touch was brief, accidental maybe, but it burned. "Thank you, Camille," he said, my full name sounding like something sacred in his mouth. I stepped back, nodded, and walked away before I could do something stupid like ask why he was really here. The diner felt different with him in it. Smaller, charged. The regulars kept glancing over nervously. The couple in the next booth paid their bill and left. Even the lights seemed dimmer, like the shadows bent toward him. I tried to focus on other customers, refilling coffee, taking orders, but I was painfully aware of every moment he sat there. He didn't drink much of the coffee, didn't pull out a phone, just sat, watching, waiting for something, for someone. It was nearly 11 when the diner door opened again, and every instinct I'd honed over the past 6 months started screaming, because the man who walked in wasn't a customer. He was my past, materialized into flesh and nightmare. Marcus, my ex-boyfriend. The reason I'd fled Seattle, and the reason I'd changed my name, dyed my hair, learned to disappear. He stood in the doorway, his eyes scanning the diner until they locked on me. That familiar smile, charming to anyone who didn't know better, terrifying to me, spread across his face. "There you are, baby," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I've been looking everywhere for you." My blood turned to ice, and then, from the corner booth, I heard the scrape of a chair. Dante Volkov stood, his dark eyes fixed on Marcus with an expression that promised violence. "This restaurant," Dante said, his voice cutting through the sudden silence like a blade, "is under my protection." He took one step forward, and the shadows seemed to move with him. So is she. Time fractured into sharp, crystalline moments. Marcus standing in the doorway, confusion flickering across his face before it hardened into that familiar anger. Dante Volkov moving forward with the fluid grace of a predator who'd already decided how this would end. The two guards materializing beside their boss, hands disappearing inside their jackets. And me, frozen behind the counter, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. "I'm sorry," Marcus said, that fake charm sliding into his voice as he raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm just here for my girlfriend." "Ex-girlfriend," I managed to say, my voice shaking. We're not together anymore." Marcus's eyes snapped to me, and I saw the rage beneath the smile. "Camille, stop playing games. We need to talk." "The lady doesn't seem interested in conversation," Dante said, his tone conversational but edged with something deadly. He'd positioned himself between Marcus and the counter, between Marcus and me, his body a wall of expensive wool and lethal intent. "I suggest you leave." Marcus laughed, but it was forced. "Look, man, I don't know who you think you are." "I know exactly who I am." Dante took another step forward, and even though Marcus was roughly the same height, he suddenly looked smaller, insignificant. "The question is whether you know where you're standing." I watched Marcus's eyes dart to the guards, to the other customers who were now openly staring, to the cook who'd appeared in the kitchen window with a baseball bat. Marcus was violent, manipulative, terrifying in private, but he was also a coward. He'd never faced real opposition before. He was facing it now. "This is ridiculous," Marcus said, but he was already backing toward the door. "Camille, I'll be outside. When you're done with your shift, we're going to talk. We have things to settle." "No," I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. "We don't. I left Seattle for a reason. Leave me alone, Marcus." His expression darkened. "You think you can just walk away from me, after everything? I know about the money, Cammy. I know what you took." My blood ran cold. The money. God, the money I'd found hidden in his apartment. The money I'd taken when I'd fled because I'd needed something to survive on, to disappear with. I'd told myself I'd earned it after 2 years of hell. But legally. "Out," Dante said, and the single word carried so much menace that Marcus actually flinched. "Now. Before I lose what little patience I have left." Marcus stared at me for one more long moment, and I saw the promise in his eyes. This isn't over. Then he turned and shoved through the door, disappearing into the November night. The silence that followed was deafening. Slowly, the other customers went back to their meals, their conversations, but the energy in the diner had changed. Linda was staring at me from the kitchen doorway. The cook had set down his bat but was still watching, and Dante Volkov was turning toward me with those dark, unreadable eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. "You didn't have to." "Come here," he said softly. It wasn't a request. It also wasn't quite a command. Something in between, laced with concern that I didn't expect from a man like him. I moved on autopilot, rounding the counter, stopping a few feet away from him. Up close, I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive, cedar and smoke. "Are you hurt?" he asked. I shook my head. He didn't touch me, but he wanted to. It wasn't a question. Dante's jaw tightened. "How long has he been following you?" "I didn't know he was. I haven't seen him since I left Seattle 6 months ago." "Then he tracked you down, deliberately." Dante glanced toward the door, then back to me. "He'll come back." I knew that. God, I knew that. Marcus didn't let go of things he considered his property, and he'd always considered me exactly that. My hands started shaking, the adrenaline finally catching up with the shock. "I'll be careful," I said. I don't know. Move again, maybe." "No." Dante said it with such finality that I blinked. "You're not running again. You don't understand. Marcus is dangerous?" A ghost of a smile touched Dante's mouth. "So am I, Solnishko. The difference is that I'm dangerous in ways that matter." The Russian endearment slipped out so naturally that I almost missed it. "Solnishko, little son. Why are you helping me?" I asked. "You don't know me." "No," he agreed. "Not yet." The yet hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. One of the guards cleared his throat. "Boss, we should move." Dante ignored him, his attention still fixed on me. "What time does your shift end?" 2 a.m. "Victor will stay," Dante said, nodding to the guard on his left, a man built like a concrete wall. "He'll make sure your ex doesn't come back tonight. And tomorrow I'll handle it myself," I interrupted. "I appreciate the help, really. But I can't. I don't want to owe." "You don't owe me anything." Dante reached into his coat and pulled out a business card, pressing it into my palm. His fingers were warm, calloused, and the touch sent electricity racing up my arm. "But if he comes back, you call that number. Immediately." I looked down at the card. Heavy black cardstock, embossed silver lettering. Just a name, Dante Volkov, and a phone number. "I don't understand why you're doing this," I said quietly. He leaned in, just slightly, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body, close enough that his breath ghosted across my cheek when he spoke. "Because the moment I walked through that door, I saw you." His voice dropped to something intimate, dangerous. And I don't forget things I want to keep. Before I could process that, before I could breathe, he was moving away, buttoning his coat, nodding to his remaining guard. "Tomorrow," he said, not quite a question. Then he was gone, leaving only the scent of cedar smoke and the weight of his business card burning in my hand. Linda appeared beside me. What the hell just happened? I stared at the door where Dante Volkov had disappeared into the night, my heart still racing, my skin still tingling from his proximity. "I have no idea," I whispered. But I was lying. I knew exactly what had happened. I'd just been claimed by the most dangerous man in Brooklyn. He came back the next morning. I was working the breakfast shift, exhausted after only 3 hours of sleep, my mind still replaying the previous night on an endless loop. Marcus's face. Dante's protection. The way his voice had wrapped around those words. Things I want to keep. I'd spent half the night staring at his business card, the other half convincing myself that last night had been an anomaly, a one-time intervention. Dante Volkov had bigger concerns than a waitress with an abusive ex. Then the bells chimed at 8:15 a.m., and he walked in. Different coat this time, black cashmere instead of charcoal, but the same devastating presence. The same dark eyes that found me immediately across the crowded morning rush. The same Victor trailing behind him, looking like he hadn't slept at all. My hand stilled on the coffee pot I was holding. Dante moved through the breakfast crowd like Moses parting the Red Sea, people instinctively shifting out of his path without knowing why. He took the same corner booth, Victor positioning himself nearby. Linda materialized beside me. "He's back. I can see that. Cammy, this is insane. Dante Volkov doesn't come to diners. He doesn't—" She stopped, studying my face. "Oh my God, you like him. I don't even know him. But you want to." She wasn't wrong, and I hated that. I hated that my traitorous heart had spent the night remembering the way he'd positioned himself between me and Marcus, the certainty in his voice, the dark promise in his eyes. I grabbed a menu and crossed the diner, painfully aware of the curious stares from regulars who'd been there last night. "Good morning," I said, stopping at his booth. "Camille." He said my name like a greeting and a claim all at once. "You look tired." "I didn't sleep well." "Neither did I." His eyes held mine. "Victor said your ex didn't return." I glanced at Victor, who gave me a slight nod. He'd stayed until closing, a silent sentinel in the corner booth, and had apparently been watching my apartment building afterward. "He stayed all night?" I asked Dante, disbelief coloring my voice. "I told him to keep you safe. He takes his orders seriously." Dante leaned back, his expression unreadable. "Did you think I was bluffing?" I don't know what I thought. I set the menu down in front of him. "You can't have your people watching me. I'm nobody." "I disagree." He didn't touch the menu. "Coffee, black, and whatever you recommend for breakfast." "That's not what I meant." "I know what you meant." He interrupted gently but firmly. "Sit down." "I'm working." "Sit. Down." This time it was definitely a command, soft but absolute. And I shouldn't have obeyed. Should have maintained professional boundaries, should have walked away. Instead, I found myself sliding into the opposite seat, my heart pounding. The morning noise of the diner, clattering dishes, conversation, the hiss of the griddle, faded into background static. "I need you to understand something," Dante said, his voice low enough that only I could hear. "Marcus found you once. He'll try again. Men like him don't stop until they're made to stop." "And you're going to make him stop?" I asked. "Why? You don't owe me anything." "No," he agreed. "But I'm a man who trusts his instincts, and every instinct I have is telling me that you're important." The words hit me like a physical touch. "You don't know me. Then let me. He leaned forward, and suddenly the space between us felt charged, electric. "Have dinner with me tonight." I blinked. "What? Dinner? You. Me. Somewhere that isn't a diner." The faintest smile touched his mouth. "Unless you're afraid." "Of you? Of this?" He gestured between us, acknowledging the pull that had been there from the first moment. "I saw it yesterday, and I know you felt it too. So the question isn't whether there's something here. The question is whether you're brave enough to find out what." My breath caught. I should say no. Should run from this man and his dark world and the danger that clung to him like a second skin. But I'd spent 6 months running, 6 months being invisible, 6 months denying myself any connection because I was too afraid, and I was tired of being afraid. "One dinner," I said. "One dinner," he agreed. "I'll pick you up at 8. "I didn't give you my address." That almost smile again. "Victor already knows it." Of course he did. I should have been disturbed. Instead, I felt something close to relief. Someone was watching. Someone knew where I was. After 6 months of isolation, it felt less like surveillance and more like being seen. I stood, smoothing down my ugly uniform dress. "Your coffee." "Camille," he said as I started to turn away. I looked back. His expression had shifted to something serious, intense. "Last night, what he said about money, is it true?" My stomach clenched. "I took $15,000 when I left. It was hidden in his apartment. I knew I shouldn't have, but I had nothing, and I needed." "How much did you take originally?" $15,000. "And how much have you used?" I swallowed hard. "About 3,000. The rest is hidden in my apartment. I know legally it's theft, but after 2 years of—" "Stop." He held up a hand. "I'm not judging you. I'm calculating what he'll use against you." His eyes darkened. 12,000 isn't enough to risk what he risked last night. There's something else. Something he wants beyond the money." My hands went cold because he was right. Marcus had never cared about money. He'd cared about control. About possession. "What did he mean when he said he knows what you took?" Dante pressed. "I don't know. The money was all—" I stopped, my mind racing back to that last night in Seattle. The hidden safe. The cash. And beneath it— "Oh God," I whispered. "What?" There was a flash drive. Underneath the money. I grabbed everything and ran. And I never looked at what was on it. Dante's expression went deadly cold. "Where is it now?" "My apartment. In the same bag as the money." He was already standing, pulling out his phone, speaking rapid Russian to someone on the other end. When he hung up, his eyes found mine. "We're leaving. Now." "What? I can't just—" "Your apartment isn't safe. If Marcus knows about the flash drive, he'll come for it." Dante was already moving, Victor falling into step beside him. "And he'll come through you to get it." Fear iced my spine. "What do you think is on it?" Dante's jaw tightened. "Nothing good. Men don't track down ex-girlfriends across state lines for $15,000. They do it for leverage, for evidence, for things that can destroy them." He stopped at the counter, pulling out his wallet and dropping several $100 bills beside the register. "Tell your boss she's taking the rest of the day off. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what's happening." His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw genuine concern beneath the cold authority. "What's happening," Dante said quietly, "is that you've accidentally stolen something from a dangerous man, and now I'm going to make sure he can't get it back. Or get to you." He held out his hand. "Trust me." I stared at his outstretched hand, at the expensive watch on his wrist, at the faint scar across his knuckles that suggested violence was no stranger to him. Every rational part of my brain screamed to refuse, to stay in the safe, visible space of the diner. But I took his hand anyway. His fingers closed around mine, warm and certain. "Good girl," he murmured. And then he led me out into a world I didn't understand, toward danger I couldn't see. The SUV that waited outside the diner was black, sleek, and bulletproof. I could tell by the thickness of the windows. Dante opened the door himself, a gesture that felt strangely intimate coming from a man who had people to do everything for him. I slid into leather seats that probably cost more than my car. He followed, Victor taking the front passenger seat while another man I didn't recognize drove. "My apartment is in Red Hook," I said. 20 minutes from here." "I know." Dante pulled out his phone, typing something. "We're not going there yet." My stomach dropped. "What? You just said—" "I said your apartment isn't safe. That doesn't mean we're walking into a potential ambush unprepared." He looked up from his phone, his expression softening slightly at what must have been panic on my face. "I'm sending people there first, to secure it, retrieve your belongings, and make sure Marcus isn't waiting." "People?" "My people." He pocketed his phone. "In the meantime, you're coming somewhere he can't reach you." "Where?" "My home." The words settled over me like a weighted blanket. His home. Dante Volkov's home. I was quite literally being taken to the mob boss's house, and I'd gotten into the car voluntarily. "I should call my manager," I said, grasping for something normal, something to ground me. "Linda can't cover the whole shift alone." "Already handled. I bought you a week." I stared at him. "You bought? What does that even mean?" "It means I made a generous donation to the owner that more than covers your absence. You're officially on paid leave. You can't just throw money at my life." "I can. I did. Next objection?" He was watching me with something like amusement now, and it irritated me how attractive he was even when being impossibly high-handed. "I don't need you to fix everything." "No," he agreed. "But you need someone to keep you alive, and right now, that someone is me." The amusement faded. "I've seen this before, Camille. Men who track women down aren't looking for closure. They're looking for revenge. Whatever's on that flash drive, Marcus believes it's worth the risk of coming after you in my city." My city. Like he owned it. Maybe he did. The SUV moved through Brooklyn with smooth efficiency, the world outside transforming from my familiar working-class neighborhood to increasingly upscale streets. Brownstones gave way to modern high-rises, then back to tree-lined blocks of historic mansions. "Tell me about him," Dante said. "Marcus." I didn't want to pull those memories into this pristine leather interior, into the presence of this man who smelled like cedar and power. But his eyes were steady on mine, patient, and I found myself talking. "We met 3 years ago. He was charming, successful, attentive, everything I thought I wanted." My laugh was bitter. It took 6 months for the charm to crack. Another year for me to understand that I was in danger, and another 6 months to find the courage to leave. "He hit you." It wasn't a question. "Yes." Dante's jaw tightened, a muscle ticking beneath the stubble. "Where?" "Places that didn't show. He was smart about it." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the SUV's warmth. By the end, I was so isolated I didn't even recognize myself. No friends. No family. My parents died when I was 20. No one who would notice if I disappeared. "But you left." One night he passed out drunk, and I found his safe open. The money, the flash drive, some documents I didn't stop to read. I grabbed it all, threw some clothes in a bag, and drove straight through to New York. Changed my name from Camille Thorne to Camille Reyes, dyed my hair from blonde to auburn, found the first cheap apartment and cash job I could. I met his eyes. I thought I was free. "You are free," Dante said, his voice carrying absolute certainty. "He'll never touch you again." "You can't promise that." I don't make promises I can't keep. He reached across the space between us, his fingers brushing my jaw in a touch so gentle it made my chest ache. You're under my protection now. That means something in this city. Because you claimed me in front of witnesses? Because I choose to. His thumb traced my cheekbone. The witnesses just made it official. Before I could respond, before I could process the heat spreading from where he touched me, the SUV pulled through wrought iron gates that opened automatically, rolling up a private drive lined with perfectly manicured hedges. The house at the end was a mansion. No other word for it. 3 stories of pale stone and large windows, elegant and imposing, with a fountain in the circular driveway and what looked like a separate carriage house to the side. You live here? I asked stupidly. When I'm not at the penthouse downtown. He said it casually. Like having multiple residences worth millions was normal. For him, it probably was. This is safer, more private, harder to approach without being seen. The SUV stopped, and Victor appeared to open Dante's door. Dante stepped out, then offered me his hand again. I took it, letting him help me from the car, my waitress uniform absurdly out of place against the backdrop of his wealth. Come, he said, keeping my hand in his as he led me up stone steps to a massive wooden door that opened before we reached it. An older woman stood in the entryway, silver hair, kind eyes, wearing an apron. Mr. Volkov, she greeted in accented English. You didn't mention a guest. Last-minute situation, Elena. Dante's tone was softer with her. This is Camille. She'll be staying for a while. Make up the guest room next to mine, and find her something comfortable to wear. Elena's eyebrows rose fractionally, but she nodded. Of course. Welcome, Miss Camille. Thank you, I managed. The interior was as stunning as the exterior. Marble floors, a sweeping staircase, artwork that looked original and priceless. But it was also warm somehow, lived in, with books scattered on side tables and a jacket thrown over a chair. Dante led me down a hallway into a study lined with bookshelves, dominated by a massive desk and windows overlooking a private garden. He released my hand to pour something amber from a crystal decanter. Sit, he said, gesturing to a leather armchair. And don't argue this time. I sat, too overwhelmed to fight. He handed me the glass, cognac, expensive by the smell, and leaned against his desk, studying me with those dark, unreadable eyes. Here's what's going to happen, Dante said. My people will retrieve everything from your apartment and bring it here. We'll examine the flash drive, determine what Marcus wants so badly. Then I'll decide how to handle him. Handle him how? Do you really want to know? I thought about Marcus's hands around my throat, the fear that had been my constant companion for 2 years, the exhaustion of running. Yes, I said. Dante smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. Let's see what's on the flash drive first. Then I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do to the man who hurt you. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression darkening. What? I asked. When he looked up, his eyes had gone cold. Your apartment was broken into 20 minutes ago. Whoever it was tore the place apart and left before my people arrived. The cognac glass nearly slipped from my fingers. Marcus. Or someone working for him. Dante straightened, which means he's more desperate than I thought, and more dangerous. He crossed to me, crouching down so we were eye level, his hands coming to rest on the arms of my chair, caging me in. You don't leave this house without me, he said quietly. You don't open doors, answer phones, or go anywhere I haven't cleared first. Understood? You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. His hand came up to cut my face, his thumb brushing across my lower lip. But not of me. Never of me. The touch sent electricity racing through my body. We were inches apart, his breath mingling with mine, his eyes so dark I could see my reflection in them. "Dante," I whispered. "Say it again." "What?" "My name." "Say it again." "Dante." He made a low sound, almost a growl, and for a heart-stopping moment I thought he would kiss me. Instead, he stood abruptly, putting distance between us. "Elena will show you to your room," he said, his voice rough. "Rest. We'll talk when my people return." Then he was gone, leaving me alone in his study with a half-empty glass and the lingering heat of his touch burning on my skin. I couldn't rest. The guest room Elena showed me to was larger than my entire apartment, a 4-poster bed with silk sheets, an ensuite bathroom with a soaking tub, windows overlooking the garden. She'd laid out clothes for me, soft cashmere loungewear that fit perfectly, making me wonder how Dante had known my size. Then again, a man like him probably knew everything. I showered, washing away the smell of grease and coffee, trying to wash away the fear too. It didn't work. Marcus was out there, tearing apart my life, looking for something I'd taken without knowing its value. And I was here, in a mobster's mansion, under the protection of a man who'd looked at me like he wanted to devour me whole. I touched my lips where his thumb had traced, remembering the heat in his eyes, the restraint that had vibrated through his body. "Never of me," he'd said. But maybe I should be afraid. Maybe the smart thing was to run from both of them, Marcus and Dante, and disappear somewhere else. Except I was tired of running, and for the first time in 6 months, I felt something other than fear. I felt alive. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. "Miss Camille?" Elena's voice. "Mr. Volkov requests your presence in his study." They'd found something. I followed Elena through the mansion's corridors, my heart pounding with each step. The study door was open, revealing Dante standing behind his desk, Victor beside him, both staring at a laptop screen with identical expressions of cold fury. Dante looked up as I entered. "Close the door." I did, the click sounding too loud. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Not the comfortable armchair from earlier. This felt more formal, more serious. I sat. What was on it? Everything. Dante turned the laptop to face me. Financial records, names, transactions, photographs, video footage of meetings. He paused. "Your ex-boyfriend was keeping insurance against his boss." "His boss?" "Marcus worked for the Cordova family. He's Seattle's primary cocaine distributor." Dante's voice was clinical, detached. "Based on what's here, he was skimming money, falsifying records, and documenting everything in case he needed leverage." My stomach turned. I was living with a drug dealer. You were living with a mid-level enforcer who got greedy and stupid. Dante's eyes softened slightly. "Did you know?" "No. I knew he had money from somewhere, knew he kept strange hours, but I didn't. I never asked." God, how naive had I been. I just wanted to believe the lie. Most people do. He closed the laptop. The flash drive is worth hundreds of thousands to the right buyer, or to the Cordova family, who would pay handsomely to keep it from becoming public. It's also a death sentence for Marcus if they know he compiled it. So what do? We do nothing. I handle it. It's my problem. It became my problem the moment I claimed you. Dante's tone left no room for argument. Marcus is in Brooklyn, my territory, looking for something that could start a war if it gets into the wrong hands. He leaned forward, his hands flat on the desk. "This isn't about chivalry, Camille. It's about control. Order. Making sure everyone understands the rules." "What rules?" "That what's mine stays mine. That my protection means something. That there are consequences for men who come into my city and threaten what I've decided to keep." The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it sparked something hot and wanting low in my belly. "I'm not property," I said quietly. "No," he agreed. You're something far more dangerous. You're a choice. Before I could process that, Victor's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, his expression darkening. Boss, we have a situation. Dante straightened. Talk. Two of the men watching the diner just reported Marcus at Camille's apartment building. He's trying to get into the apartment again, but the locks have been changed. Victor paused, listening. He's threatening the landlord. Send 6 men. I want him picked up and brought to the warehouse. Dante's voice had gone cold, empty of emotion. Quietly, no witnesses. Horror and relief tangled in my chest. What are you going to do to him? What I should have done last night. Dante came around the desk, stopping in front of me. I'm going to make him understand that you're untouchable. That every threat he made, every time he hurt you, every fucking bruise he left, all of it comes due tonight. His hand cupped my face, tilting it up to meet his eyes. And I'm going to enjoy it. Dante, do you want him to stop? He asked. Truly stop? Because men like Marcus don't listen to words. They don't respect boundaries or restraining orders. They only understand power and pain. I thought about the last time I'd seen Marcus before fleeing Seattle. The way he'd smiled while his hands had tightened around my throat. The cold certainty in his eyes that I belonged to him. I want him to stop, I whispered. Then trust me to make that happen. His thumb stroked across my cheekbone. I need you to stay here tonight. Let me handle this. You're going to hurt him. Yes. Badly. Very badly. No apology in his voice. Does that change how you see me? I should say yes. I should be horrified by this man who spoke of violence so casually, who was about to torture my ex-boyfriend in some warehouse. But all I could think was, finally, someone who sees the monster Marcus is and isn't afraid to stop him. No, I said. It doesn't change anything. Something flared in Dante's eyes. Satisfaction, desire, possession. Brave girl. He leaned down, his lips brushing my forehead in a gesture that was somehow more intimate than a kiss. I'll be back before morning. Dante. I caught his wrist as he started to pull away. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Solnishko. What I'm about to do isn't heroic. It's brutal and necessary and part of a world you shouldn't have to understand. His fingers tangled with mine. But I'll do it anyway. For you. Then he was gone, Victor following, leaving me alone in the study with the laptop and the knowledge of what Marcus had been, what he'd hidden, what I'd unknowingly stolen. Elena appeared in the doorway. Miss Camille, can I bring you anything? Tea? Something to eat? I swallowed hard. How long has he been doing this? Helping people, I mean. Elena's expression softened. Mr. Dante has a complicated relationship with his responsibilities, but when he decides someone is his to protect. She paused, choosing her words carefully. He doesn't do it halfway, and he never fails. What if Marcus fights back? What if something goes wrong? Nothing will go wrong. Dante Volkov doesn't lose. She said it with such absolute certainty that I almost believed her. Almost. I spent the next 4 hours trying to distract myself, exploring the mansion. Attempting to read a book from Dante's extensive library, soaking in the enormous bathtub. Nothing worked. My mind kept returning to what was happening in some warehouse across the city. What Dante was doing to Marcus. What Marcus deserved. It was nearly midnight when I heard the front door open, footsteps in the hallway. I was curled up in the window seat of my room, staring out at the garden, when the knock came. Come in, I said. Dante entered and my breath caught. He'd changed clothes, the expensive suit gone, replaced by dark jeans and a black Henley. His hair was disheveled, his jaw tight. There was a slight bruise forming on his knuckles. Is it done? I asked. It's done. He moved to the window seat, standing close. Marcus won't bother you again. Ever. Did you kill him? No, though I wanted to. His voice was rough. I made it clear what would happen if he ever came near you, spoke your name, or set foot in my territory again. I took photographs of him understanding these terms to send to his employers, and I kept the flash drive. Why keep it? Leverage, insurance, proof that you're under Volkov protection. He sat beside me, close enough that his thigh pressed against mine. Marcus left on a bus to Chicago 2 hours ago. He won't be back. Relief crashed over me so hard that tears sprang to my eyes. Thank you. Don't cry, Solnishko. He wiped away a tear with his thumb. You're safe now. I haven't felt safe in 3 years. Then feel it now. Here, with me. His hand slid to the back of my neck, his fingers tangling in my hair. I told you. You're mine to protect. If that's not going to change. We barely know each other. I know enough. He pulled me closer until our faces were inches apart. I know you're brave and stubborn and stronger than you think. I know you taste like sunshine even covered in diner grease. I know that every instinct I have says you're important. Dante. And I know, he continued, his voice dropping to something dark and velvet, that I've wanted to kiss you since the moment you asked me what coffee I wanted in that sharp little voice. My heart stopped. Then why haven't you? Because once I start, he murmured against my lips, I won't want to stop. Good, I breathed. And then his mouth was on mine. The kiss was nothing like I expected. I'd imagined Dante would be rough, demanding, taking what he wanted with the same ruthless efficiency he applied to everything else. Instead, he kissed me like I was something precious. His lips were soft against mine, questioning, giving me room to pull away. One hand cradled the back of my head, the other coming up to cup my face, his thumb stroking my cheekbone in that gesture that was already becoming familiar. I melted into him, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. That's when something shifted. A low sound came from his throat, half growl, half groan, and the kiss deepened. His tongue traced the seam of my lips, and I opened for him, tasting cedar and smoke and want. He kissed me like he was starving, like I was air and he'd been drowning, and I met him with equal hunger. All the fear, the adrenaline, the tension of the past 24 hours transformed into something electric and consuming. His hand slid from my face to my throat, not restricting, just holding, feeling my pulse race beneath his palm. You're killing me, he muttered against my mouth. Good. He pulled back enough to look at me, his eyes so dark they were almost black, his breathing uneven. Camille, I need you to understand something. What? I could barely think past the feel of his hands on me, the heat of his body pressed against mine. If we do this, if I take you to bed, there's no going back. You'll be mine. Completely. In every way that matters in my world. His thumb pressed against my racing pulse. I don't do casual. I don't share. And I don't let go of things I claim. A smarter woman would have been frightened by the possessiveness in his voice, would have recognized the danger in belonging to a man like Dante Volkov. But I'd spent 3 years belonging to the wrong man, in belonging to cruelty disguised as love. This felt different. Dante was dangerous, yes, but honest about it. He didn't hide his darkness behind charm. He showed me exactly who he was, and let me choose. I'm already yours, I said. You claimed me the moment you stood between me and Marcus. Something blazed in his eyes. Say it again. I'm yours, Dante. He kissed me again, harder this time, with barely restrained hunger. His hand slid down to my waist, lifting me effortlessly until I was straddling his lap, the cashmere pants Elena had given me riding up as I settled against him. I could feel him, hard and wanting, pressing against me through our clothes. The sensation sent heat pooling low in my belly. "We should stop," he said, even as his hand slid under my shirt, palms hot against my bare skin. "Why?" "Because you've been through trauma. Because I took care of your ex-boyfriend a few hours ago. Because you should have time to think. To be sure." I cut him off with a kiss, pouring everything I felt into it. The gratitude, the want, the desperate need to feel something other than fear. "I'm sure," I whispered against his mouth. "I've never been more sure of anything." He stood in one fluid motion, taking me with him, my legs wrapping around his waist. "Which room?" "Yours," I said. "I want to be in your space. Your bed." The groan he made was pure need. He carried me down the hallway, kicking open a door to reveal his bedroom. Larger than the guest room, dominated by a massive bed with dark sheets, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He set me down on the bed, standing over me, his chest heaving. "Last chance to change your mind." "I'm not changing my mind." I reached for him, pulling him down. "Show me what it's like to be yours." What followed was everything I'd never known I needed. Dante undressed me slowly, reverently, kissing every inch of skin he exposed. When he found a faded bruise on my ribs, one of the last Marcus had left, his entire body went rigid. "I should have made him suffer longer," he said, his voice deadly quiet. "He's gone. You made sure of it." I pulled his face up to mine. "Be here with me now. Not in that warehouse. Not in the past. Here." He closed his eyes, taking a breath, then opened them with such intensity it stole my breath. "Here," he agreed. And then he proceeded to take me apart piece by piece. His hands, his mouth, his whispered words in Russian and English, all of it designed to make me forget everything except the pleasure building inside me. He learned my body like he was studying something precious, discovering what made me gasp, what made me arch, what made me beg. When he finally moved inside me, our eyes locked. Something deeper than physical pleasure passed between us. This wasn't just sex. It was a claiming, a promise, a point of no return. Mine. He breathed against my neck as he moved, setting a rhythm that had me clinging to him. "Yours," I gasped. "Say my name." "Dante." Again. "Dante, God, Dante." He kissed me then, swallowing my cries as pleasure crashed over me in waves. His own release followed moments later, my name on his lips like a prayer. Afterward, we lay tangled together, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. "Stay with me," he said quietly. "Tonight? Longer. As long as you want." He pressed a kiss to my hair. "Move in here. Let me keep you safe." I should have said no, should have maintained some independence, some distance, but I was so tired of being alone. "Okay," I whispered. His arms tightened around me. "Okay." We fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear. I should have known peace couldn't last. I woke to darkness and the sound of breaking glass. Dante was already moving, rolling out of bed in one fluid motion, grabbing a gun from the nightstand I hadn't noticed. "Stay here," he ordered, his voice cold and commanding. "What's happening?" "Someone's breaching the perimeter." He was pulling on jeans, the weapon held with casual expertise. "Victor should have—" An explosion of sound, gunfire, rapid and close. My blood turned to ice. Dante's expression went deadly cold. He crossed to me, gripping my face between his hands. "Listen carefully. Lock this door behind me. Go into the bathroom. Lock that too. Get in the bathtub and don't come out until I come for you. Understand? Dante, do you understand?" His voice was hard, demanding. "Yes." He kissed me once, hard and fast. "I'll come back for you. I promise." Then he was gone, disappearing into the hallway, leaving me alone with the sound of gunfire echoing through the mansion. I did as he said, locked the bedroom door, then the bathroom, climbed into the massive tub and huddled there, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. More gunfire, shouting in languages I didn't understand. A scream that cut off abruptly. Minutes felt like hours. I clutched my knees to my chest, trying to control my breathing, trying not to imagine what was happening beyond these walls. Then, silence. Heavy. Complete. Worse than the gunfire. I waited, counting seconds, then minutes. 5 minutes. 10. The bathroom door handle rattled. "Camille?" Dante's voice, rough but alive. "Open the door, Solnishko." I scrambled out of the tub, unlocking the door with shaking hands. Dante stood there, blood on his shirt. Not his, I prayed. His face grim. "It's over," he said. "Who was it?" His jaw tightened. "The Cordova family. Marcus must have told them about the flash drive before I sent him away." He pulled me against him, one arm crushing me to his chest. "They came for it. They failed." "Is everyone?" "Victor's fine. 2 of my men are wounded but stable. 3 of theirs are dead." He said it matter-of-factly, like reporting the weather. "This is my world, Camille. This is what being mine means." I should have been horrified, should have run. Instead, I held him tighter. "Then I guess I'm staying," I said. He pulled back to look at me, searching my face. "You're sure? After this?" "You kept your promise. You came back for me." I touched his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. "That means something." "It means everything," he said. Then he kissed me like I was his salvation. And maybe I was. Dawn broke over Brooklyn in shades of pink and gold, beautiful and incongruous with the violence that had shattered the night. I stood at the bedroom window, wrapped in one of Dante's shirts, watching as men in suits cleaned up evidence from the lawn below. They worked with efficient precision, making bodies and bullet casings disappear like they'd never existed. This was his world. These were the consequences of being his. Strong arms wrapped around me from behind, Dante's chin resting on my shoulder. He'd showered, washing away the blood, but exhaustion lined his face. "You should be sleeping," he murmured. "So should you." Too much to do. The Cordovas declared war the moment they sent men into my home. His arms tightened. "I need to make sure they understand what that means." I turned in his embrace. More violence. Yes. Will it ever stop? Probably not. His honesty was brutal. This life, my life, it's built on power and blood, on making examples and maintaining control. I was born into it, and I'll likely die in it. He cupped my face. "Which is why I'm giving you one more chance to walk away." "You said no going back." I lied. His thumb traced my lower lip. "I'll have Victor drive you anywhere you want to go. Set you up with a new identity, new city, money to start over. You can disappear again, and this time I'll make sure no one finds you. Not Marcus, not the Cordovas, not me." My heart clenched. "You'd let me go? If it keeps you safe? If it gives you the normal life you deserve?" His eyes held mine, and I saw the truth in them. This would destroy him, but he'd do it anyway. Yes. This was the difference between Marcus and Dante. Marcus had caged me, controlled me, made himself the center of my world until I had nothing left. Dante was offering me freedom, the choice, even though it would cost him. "I love you," I said. He went completely still. "What?" "I love you." The words felt right, felt true, despite the impossibility of the timeline. I know it's too fast. I know it's crazy. But I've never felt like this before. Safe, and seen, and chosen. I pressed my hand to his chest, feeling his heart racing. "You're not perfect. You're violent and possessive and part of a world I don't understand. But you're real. You don't hide what you are. And I'd rather have one day as yours than a lifetime of pretending I don't feel this. For a long moment he just stared at me, something raw and vulnerable crossing his face. Then he kissed me with such fierce tenderness that my knees went weak. "Я тебя люблю," he whispered against my lips. Russian words that sounded like a vow. I love you, Camille. From the moment you looked at me with those sharp eyes and asked what I wanted. You. And I wanted you. Then keep me. Always. He pulled back, his expression shifting from vulnerable to determined. But if you're staying, we do this right. You'll have security at all times. Victor will teach you to shoot. Elena will help you understand the dynamics of the families, who's an ally, who's an enemy. And you'll never leave this property without me clearing it first. That sounds like a prison. That sounds like staying alive. His voice was firm. The Cordovas know about you now. They'll see you as leverage, as a weakness. If they can't get to me directly, they'll come for you. Ice slid down my spine. How many enemies do you have? Enough. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. This is the reality, Solnishko. Love me and you inherit my wars, my dangers, my world. I thought about the past 24 hours, and the fear and the passion and the violence, the way Dante had protected me without hesitation, the way he'd looked at me like I was something precious even covered in diner grease. Then teach me, I said. Teach me how to survive in your world. Pride flickered in his eyes. It won't be easy. Nothing worth having ever is. A knock on the door interrupted us. Boss? Victor's voice. We need you downstairs. Dante sighed. 5 minutes. It's the Cordova situation. They sent a message. His entire body tensed. What kind of message? The kind that requires your immediate attention. Dante cursed in Russian. Get dressed, he told me. Come downstairs. If this life is going to be yours, you should see all of it. 10 minutes later, I followed Dante into his study where Victor, Elena, and 3 other men I didn't recognize were gathered. On the desk sat a box. Plain, cardboard, innocuous, except for the blood seeping through the bottom. My stomach turned. What is that? A statement? Dante opened the box with clinical detachment. Inside was a severed hand, a ring still on one finger. He studied it for a moment, then closed the box. They killed Marco, one of my captains. I'm sorry, I said quietly. Don't be. Marco was likely the one who leaked information about the flash drive to the Cordovas in the first place. Dante's voice was cold. They killed him to prove they're serious, to make me understand that they want blood for the men I killed last night. What do we do? One of the men asked. Dante was silent for a long moment, his mind clearly working through scenarios, strategies, consequences. Then he looked at Victor. Call a meeting. All the families. Yen tonight. His tone left no room for argument. It's time we reminded them all how things work in my territory. Boss, a meeting of all the families is risky. So is war. Dante cut him off. The Cordovas came into my home, threatened what's mine. If I don't respond decisively, every other family will see it as weakness. We settle this now, in front of witnesses, with terms that everyone understands. And if they refuse the meeting? Victor asked. They won't, because I'm bringing the flash drive. Dante's smile was cold. They want their insurance back? Fine, but it comes at a price. Understanding dawned on Victor's face. You're going to trade it. For peace, for territory, for guarantees that Camille stays untouchable. Dante looked at me. For her safety, I'll negotiate. My heart clenched. You don't have to. Yes, and I do. He crossed to me, tilting my face up. That flash drive is leverage I'd normally use to expand my power, to crush my enemies. But you're more important than any of that. Dante! You are more important than power, he said fiercely, more important than territory or money or revenge. You are the first thing in my life that matters more than this empire. So yes, I'll trade the flash drive. I'll negotiate peace. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure you're safe." I kissed him, not caring that we had an audience. "I love you." "I know." He smiled against my lips. "That's why I'm willing to trade." Victor cleared his throat. "Boss, the meeting is set for midnight, the usual place." Dante nodded. "Good. Camille stays here with Elena and 4 guards. No one gets in or out until I return." "I want to come with you," I said. "Absolutely not. If this meeting is about me, I should be there. If this meeting goes badly, it will end in gunfire." His tone was absolute. "You stay here where I know you're safe. That's not negotiable." I wanted to argue, wanted to insist on being part of decisions about my own life, but I saw the fear beneath his determination, the terror that something might happen to me. "Okay," I said. "I'll stay." Relief crossed his face. "Thank you." The hours before the meeting crawled by with agonizing slowness. Elena taught me the basics of the different families, who allied with whom, what territories they controlled, which grudges went back generations. Victor showed me how to load and fire a handgun, his patience infinite as I fumbled with the mechanics. "You're a natural," he said after I'd hit the target 3 times in a row. "I'm terrified." "Good. Fear keeps you alert." He reset the target. "But don't let it paralyze you. If someone threatens you, shoot first. Dante will handle the consequences." At 11 p.m., Dante emerged from his study dressed in a black suit that made him look like death personified. He crossed to me, pulling me against him. "If I'm not back by dawn," he started. "Don't." I pressed my fingers to his lips. "Don't say it like you're not coming back." "I'm always prepared for the worst." He kissed my forehead, then my nose, then my lips. "But I plan to come home to you, to our bed. To our life. Promise?" "I promise." He pulled back, his eyes searching mine. "Wait for me?" "Always." One more kiss, deep and desperate and full of unspoken words. Then he was gone, taking Victor and his guards, leaving me with Elena and the terrible weight of waiting. "He'll be fine," Elena said, appearing beside me with tea. "I've known Dante since he was a boy. He always comes home." "What if this time is different?" "Then you'll honor his memory by surviving." She said it gently but firmly. "That's what love means in this world, child. Being strong enough to endure." I stood at the window watching the city lights, counting the minutes, and prayed that Dante would keep his promise. The warehouse on the edge of Red Hook had been neutral ground for 15 years, a place where the families could meet without fear of ambush, where words carried more weight than guns. Tonight, those words might determine whether I went home to Camille or started a war that would burn Brooklyn to the ground. Victor stood at my right shoulder as we entered, 6 of my best men flanking us. The warehouse was already crowded, representatives from every major family, their soldiers lining the walls, the air thick with tension and cigarette smoke. At the center sat a long table where the heads of the 5 families were gathering. Giovanni Marchetti, old-school Italian, ran the gambling operations. Isabella Chen controlled the docks and smuggling. Alexei Kuznetsov, my father's former rival, managed protection rackets. And at the far end, Marco Cordova, younger than me, stupid enough to think violence was the same as power. He glared at me as I took my seat. "You have nerve showing up here after killing my men." "Your men attacked my home." I kept my voice level, cold. "Your men threatened what's mine." I responded appropriately. "You think hiding behind one waitress justifies starting a war?" Marco slammed his hand on the table. "You killed 3 of my soldiers." "Who broke every rule we have?" Giovanni interrupted, his gravelly voice cutting through Marco's rage. "Dante's home is sacred ground. You know this. We all know this. You sent men there anyway. For stolen property that belonged to us. Property that was taken from one of your men, I said. Marcus Reyes was your problem long before he became mine. He was skimming, keeping insurance against you, and got sloppy enough to lose it to his ex-girlfriend. That's on you. Isabella leaned forward, her expression calculating. Yet this ex-girlfriend is now under your protection. Convenient. She stumbled into my diner being hunted by an abusive ex. I intervened. That she was unknowingly carrying Cordova family secrets? I shrugged. Lucky coincidence. Bullshit, Marco spat. You're using her to leverage us. Actually, I pulled the flash drive from my pocket, setting it on the table between us. I'm offering to resolve this peacefully. The room went silent. What are you proposing? Alexei asked, his accent thicker than mine. The flash drive contains enough evidence to destroy the Cordova cocaine operation. Names, dates, financial records, photographs, everything. I looked directly at Marco. I could leak it to the DEA, could use it to take over your territory, could auction it to your enemies. Then why haven't you? Marco's eyes were narrow, suspicious. Because the woman you're threatening matters more to me than power. I let that sink in. So here's my offer. I return the flash drive. You guarantee that Camille Reyes is untouchable. By you, by your men, by anyone in your organization. You also guarantee that Marcus Reyes never returns to New York. Break these terms, and I don't just leak the information. I dismantle your entire operation personally. Marco laughed, but it was forced. You expect me to believe you'd give up that leverage for some waitress? I expect you to be smart enough to take the deal, I said coldly. Because your alternative is war, and you know how that ends. Giovanni cleared his throat. The boy has a point, Marco. You violated sacred ground, made this personal when it should have been business. Dante's offering you a way out that doesn't end with your organization in ruins. Agreed, Isabella said. Take the deal, Marco. This grudge isn't worth a war. Marco stared at the flash drive, to then at me, calculation working behind his eyes. He was young, arrogant, but not completely stupid. Fine, he said finally. The girl is untouchable. Marcus Reyes is banned from New York, and you give me the only copy of that flash drive. Only copy, I confirmed, sliding it across the table. He took it, examining it like it might explode. How do I know you didn't make backups? You don't. You trust that I'm a man of my word. I leaned forward. But understand this, Cordova. I'm offering peace, not weakness. Touch her again. Threaten her again. Think about her again. And I'll remind you why my family has held Brooklyn for 3 generations. The threat hung in the air like smoke. We're done here, Giovanni said, standing. The matter is settled. Dante keeps his woman. Marco gets his insurance back. And we all go home without more bloodshed. One by one, the families filed out, their soldiers following. Marco was the last to leave, pausing at the door to look back at me. She must be something special, he said, for you to trade power for her safety. She is, I said simply. When the warehouse was empty except for Victor and my men, I allowed myself a breath. That went better than expected, Victor said. It's not over. Marco will test the boundaries. I stood, straightening my jacket. Double security on Camille. I want eyes on her every moment she's out of my sight. Already done, boss? I nodded, then headed for the car. Back to my home. Back to Camille. Camille's POV. I must have checked the clock 1,000 times. Midnight came and went. 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Each minute that passed without word from Dante wound the fear tighter around my chest. Elena had gone to bed, but I couldn't. I paced the living room, gun on the coffee table like Victor had taught me, jumping at every sound. At 2:47 a.m., I heard the gate open. I ran to the window, saw the familiar black SUV pulling up the drive, and relief hit me so hard my knees went weak. Dante emerged, alive, whole, already looking toward the house. I met him at the door, launching myself into his arms. He caught me, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. "I told you I'd come home," he murmured into my hair. "I know." I still worried. I pulled back to look at him, checking for injuries. "What happened?" "Come." He led me to the living room, pulling me down onto the couch beside him. "I traded the flash drive for your safety. All the families witnessed it. You're untouchable now. Protected not just by me, but by the agreement between territories." "You gave it up? All that leverage?" Without hesitation. He cupped my face. "Power can be rebuilt. Territory can be retaken. But you..." His thumb stroked my cheek. "You're irreplaceable." Tears burned my eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me for choosing you. Thank me for not burning down the entire Cordova operation when every instinct I had was screaming for blood." I laughed through the tears. "Thank you for your restraint?" "You're welcome." He kissed me softly. "It's done, Solnishko. You're safe. Marcus is gone. The Cordovas can't touch you. You can breathe now." And I did. For the first time in 3 years, I took a full, deep breath without fear tightening my lungs. "What now?" I asked. "Now we live." He pulled me into his lap, my legs straddling his thighs. "Now you decide what you want this life to look like. Do you want to go back to the diner? Find a new job? Go to school? Travel? Whatever you want, I'll make it happen." What if what I want is to understand your world? To be part of it, not just protected by it? His eyes darkened. "That's dangerous." "So is loving you. I'm doing it anyway." A slow smile curved his mouth. "Then I'll teach you. Everything. The families, the territories, the business. You want to be my partner in this life? I'll make you one." "Equal partner?" "As equal as I can make it while still keeping you alive." He kissed me, deep and possessive. "But know this. In public, you're my queen. In private, you're my heart. Kahan, and I'll kill anyone who tries to take either from me." That's terrifying and romantic at the same time. "Welcome to loving a monster," he said against my lips. "You're not a monster." "Yes, I am. I just happen to be yours." I kissed him then, pouring every emotion of the past hours into it. The fear, the relief, the overwhelming love that had taken root impossibly fast. He responded with equal hunger, his hands sliding under my shirt, relearning the curves of my body like he'd been starving for my touch. "Dante," I gasped as his mouth found my throat. "Should we... the living room?" "I don't care." He lifted me, carrying me to the couch, laying me down beneath him. "I need you. Now. Need to feel you alive, and safe, and mine." What followed was desperate and intense, clothes pushed aside rather than removed. While I whispered words in Russian and English, the connection between us forged even deeper through shared fear and survived danger. When we finally collapsed together, hearts racing, bodies tangled, he pressed his forehead to mine. "Never leave me," he whispered. "Never," I promised. We stayed like that, wrapped around each other until dawn painted the windows gold. In the morning, I'd start learning his world. But tonight, we'd simply survived. And that was enough. 3 weeks transformed my life completely. I didn't go back to the diner. Dante bought the building and gave ownership to Rosie herself, ensuring the staff kept their jobs. Instead, I started understanding what it meant to be Dante Volkov's woman. Elena taught me the intricate web of family alliances and grudges that spanned generations. Victor drilled me in self-defense and shooting until my aim was deadly. Dante himself educated me on the business, the legitimate operations that funded everything, the less legitimate ones that maintained power. "We don't deal drugs," he explained one afternoon in his study, me perched on his desk while he reviewed ledgers. "That's a line my father drew, one I maintain. We run protection, gambling, some import-export that skirts legality, but nothing that preys on the vulnerable. You have a code. I have lines I won't cross. It's not the same as being good." His hand settled on my thigh, thumb stroking absently. "Don't mistake me for a hero, Solnishko. I don't. But I can love a complicated man with lines he won't cross." He pulled me down into a kiss that quickly deepened, the ledgers forgotten as his hand slid up my sides. Then we were interrupted by Victor knocking. "Boss, we have a situation." Dante sighed against my mouth. "There's always a situation." But he straightened, helping me off the desk, his expression shifting to business. "What kind?" "The Russians. Alexei wants a meeting. Says it's urgent." Dante's jaw tightened. "Just Alexei or the whole organization?" "Just him. And he specifically requested that Camille be there." My stomach dropped. "Why would he want me there?" "I don't know." Dante looked at Victor. "Did he say?" "Only that he has a proposal that concerns both of you." Dante was silent for a long moment, thinking. "Set it up. Neutral location. Tomorrow night. And tell him Camille's presence is conditional on his complete transparency about why." After Victor left, I turned to Dante. "Should I be worried?" "Probably not. Alexei is smart. Be cautious. He wouldn't risk meeting me if he planned something hostile." His hand cupped my face. "But I don't like surprises when it comes to your safety." The next evening, we drove to a private restaurant in Manhattan, the kind without a sign, where entrance required a password, and the entire space had been cleared for our meeting. Alexei Kuznetsov was waiting in a private room, alone except for one bodyguard who stood by the door. He was older than Dante, maybe 50, with iron-gray hair and the kind of face that gave nothing away. He stood as we entered. "Dante, thank you for coming." His eyes shifted to me. "And you must be Camille, the woman worth trading power for." "Mr. Kuznetsov," I said, channeling Elena's lessons on how to address family heads with respect, but not submission. "Please, sit. Both of you." He gestured to the table where wine and food were already laid out. "I promise this isn't a trap. Just a proposal." We sat, Dante positioning himself so he was between Alexei and me, his hand finding my knee under the table. "Talk," Dante said. "Direct as always." Alexei smiled faintly. "Very well. I've been watching how you've handled the Cordova situation, how you protected Miss Reyes, the treaty you negotiated." He leaned forward. "It reminded me that this business we're in, it's changing. The old ways of blood feuds and endless retaliation are becoming expensive, inefficient. You want to propose an alliance. I want to propose a new structure. A council of the major families that makes decisions collectively, that settles disputes through negotiation before violence, that pools resources for mutual protection." Alexei's expression was serious. "Essentially, I want you to lead it." Dante stilled. "Why me?" "Because you have something the rest of us don't. You have someone you love more than power. That makes you trustworthy in a way we haven't seen in this life." Alexei looked at me. "A man who will trade leverage for love is a man who values keeping his word." "What's the catch?" I asked. "Smart girl." Alexei's smile widened. "The catch is that it requires all the families to agree, and some of them, particularly the Cordovas, will see it as weakness. They'll resist. There may be conflict before there's peace." "More violence," Dante said flatly. "Probably. But controlled violence. Contained. With an endpoint that doesn't involve burning Brooklyn down." Alexei poured wine for all of us. "I'm old, Dante. Tired. I've spent 40 years in this life, and I'd like to retire knowing my organization is in good hands, that my children inherit something stable rather than chaos. Dante was silent, his mind clearly working through implications, risks, benefits. "What do you think?" he asked me quietly. I blinked. "You're asking my opinion?" "You wanted to be my partner. This is what that means. Major decisions we make together." I looked at Alexei, then back at Dante. "I think anything that reduces violence and builds stability is worth trying, and I think if anyone can make it work, you can." Pride flickered in Dante's eyes. He turned back to Alexei. "How many families are on board?" 4 out of 6, including mine. The Cordovas and the Delgados are holdouts. "Marco will fight it," Dante said. "He sees negotiation as weakness. Then he'll need to be convinced. Or removed." Alexei said it casually, but the meaning was clear. Dante's hand tightened on my knee. "If I agree to this, Camille is part of the council. Not as my +1, but as a full member. With voice and vote." I nearly choked on air. "What?" "You're the reason this is happening," Dante said. "You're the proof that love and loyalty can coexist with this life. If we're building something new, you should be part of building it." Alexei considered for a long moment, then nodded. "Unprecedented, but fitting. I agree to your terms." They shook hands across the table, and just like that, my life shifted again. From waitress to protected woman to partner in reshaping Brooklyn's underworld. "This is insane," I whispered to Dante as we drove home later. "This is your life now." He kissed my knuckles. "Scared? Terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp." He pulled me against him. "But you'll be brilliant at it. You see people clearly. You understand vulnerability and strength. And you have something most of us lost years ago." "What?" "Hope." He kissed me softly. "You still believe things can be better. That belief might be the most powerful weapon we have." The next weeks were a whirlwind of meetings, negotiations, late-night strategy sessions. Dante introduced me to each family head personally, established my position, made it clear I spoke with his authority. Some were skeptical. Isabella Chen tested me with pointed questions about territory disputes until I demonstrated I'd actually studied the history. Giovanni Marchetti warmed up when I remembered his daughter's name and asked about her college plans. Marco Cordova glared through every interaction, but he didn't openly challenge my presence. Yet. Through it all, Dante was beside me, teaching, protecting, trusting me with decisions that carried real weight. At night, we'd retreat to his bedroom and the world would narrow to just us, his hands learning every inch of my body, my voice whispering his name like a prayer. The connection between us deepening until I couldn't remember where I ended and he began. "I love you," I told him one night, tangled in his sheets, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear. "I know." His fingers traced patterns on my bare shoulder. "Ja всегда буду твоим." I will always be yours. "Promise?" "I promise." He tilted my face up to kiss me. Through the violence and the peace, through the wars and the negotiations, through everything this life throws at us, I'm yours, Solnishko. Completely. Forever? Forever. I fell asleep believing him. I woke to chaos. The explosion shattered the pre-dawn silence, throwing me from the bed. My ears rang, smoke filled the room. Dante was already moving, pulling on pants, grabbing weapons. "Get to the safe room," he shouted. "Now!" But the door burst open before I could move, and Marco Cordova stood there with a gun pointed at my head. "Hello, Camille," he said with a cold smile. "Let's talk about your new council." Time crystallized into perfect, terrible clarity. Marco's gun steady on me. Dante frozen 3 feet away, his own weapon useless because any shot risked hitting me. Smoke from the explosion clouding the room. in the distant sound of gunfire throughout the mansion. "Drop it," Marco said to Dante, "or I put a bullet in your pretty girlfriend's brain." "Touch her, and you're a dead man," Dante said, his voice deadly calm. "I'm already a dead man." Marco laughed, bitter. "Your council made sure of that. The others voted me out, said I was too volatile, too dangerous. Me. I built the Cordova cocaine operation from nothing, and they want to push me aside for peace." "Marco," Dante said carefully, lowering his gun to the floor. "Think about what you're doing. You kill her. You start a war you can't win. Don't you get it? I don't care about winning anymore." Marco's gun hand trembled slightly. "I care about making sure you understand what it feels like to lose everything." My mind raced, remembering Victor's training. Don't let fear paralyze you. And if someone threatens you, act first. Marco's attention was on Dante, his gun unwavering but his body language broadcasting his instability. I had one chance. I dropped and rolled left just as I lunged for the gun Victor had made me keep in the nightstand. Marco fired. The bullet hit where I'd been standing, splintering the bedpost. My hand closed around cold metal. I came up shooting. The first bullet hit Marco in the shoulder, spinning him. The second caught him in the chest. He looked at me with surprise, the gun falling from his hand. Then Dante was there, kicking the weapon away, checking Marco's pulse. "He's alive." "Barely." His eyes found mine. "Are you hurt?" I was shaking so hard I could barely stand, the gun still clutched in my hands. I shot him. "You saved your life." Dante crossed to me, gently prying the weapon from my fingers. "You did exactly what you needed to do." The door burst open again, Victor this time with a squad of Dante's men. "Boss, we've secured the premises. 3 of Cordova's men dead, 2 captured. The explosion was at the front gate. Breaching charge." "Get a doctor for Marco," Dante ordered. "Keep him alive. We'll need answers." While Victor organized the cleanup, Dante wrapped a robe around me and led me out of the smoke-filled bedroom to his study. My legs felt disconnected from my body, my hands still shaking. "I killed him," I whispered. "He's not dead yet. And even if he dies, it was self-defense. He broke into my home with the intention of murdering you." Dante pulled me onto his lap, holding me tight. "You did nothing wrong." "I've never hurt anyone before." "I know. And I'm sorry you had to start now." He pressed his face into my hair. "But I'm grateful you had the training. Grateful Victor taught you to shoot. Grateful you're alive." I clung to him, trying to stop shaking, trying to process that I'd just shot a man. "This is why I offered you a way out," Dante said quietly. "This is the reality of my world. Violence, danger, moments where you have to choose between your life and someone else's." "I know." "And you still want this life?" I pulled back to look at him. His face was streaked with soot, his eyes red from smoke, but the concern in them was pure and real. "I want you," I said. "Whatever that means. Whatever comes with it." He kissed me then, desperate and relieved, his hands framing my face like I was something precious. We were interrupted by Victor. "Boss, Marco's stable. Doctor says he'll live, and the other families are calling. They heard about the attack." Dante stood, setting me carefully in the chair. "Tell them we're convening an emergency council meeting. Tonight. All families required." His expression hardened. "It's time we dealt with the Cordova problem permanently." That night, the warehouse was packed. I stood beside Dante at the head of the table, still wearing borrowed clothes since my apartment, now fully moved into Dante's mansion, had been damaged in the explosion. Every family head was present, their faces grave. "Marco Cordova attempted to murder my partner," Dante began without preamble. "He broke into my home, set off explosives, endangered everyone under my roof. This is the man some of you wanted to give another chance. We didn't know he'd escalate like this, Isabella said. But I did. Alexei stood. I warned you all that Marco saw negotiation as weakness, that he would rather burn everything down than accept a new order. He looked around the table. Dante was right to exclude him from the council, and now we need to decide what to do with him. He tried to kill Camille, Giovanni said flatly. By our own laws, that's a death sentence. She's under protection. Agreed, Isabella said. The others nodded, all except one. Wait. I heard myself speak before I'd decided to. Every eye turned to me. Before you execute him, consider what that accomplishes. He dies a martyr to his loyalists. His organization fractures, probably violently, or what? Alexei asked. Or we offer him exile, permanent. Strip him of his territory and operations, distribute them among the families, but let him live. Send him somewhere he can't hurt anyone. I looked at Dante. Show that this new council has mercy as well as strength. Mercy. Marco's brother, Carlos, spoke up from the side of the room where the Cordova representatives stood. For my brother? For the organization, I said. For the people who work under Marco who don't deserve to suffer for his choices. This way, there's transition instead of chaos. Silence fell. The families exchanged looks. It's unprecedented, Giovanni said finally. But wise. Agreed, Isabella said. Exile is sufficient punishment and sends the right message. One by one, the families voted. Marco would live, but his power was finished. After the meeting, as people filed out, Alexei stopped beside me. That was well played. Mercy, that's also strategic. You're learning fast. I had good teachers, I said. When everyone had left, Dante pulled me against him. You saved his life. I saved the peace, I corrected. There's a difference. You're magnificent. He kissed me softly. I knew you'd be perfect at this. I shot a man this morning and saved his life tonight. I don't feel perfect. I feel confused. Welcome to ruling, Dante said with a faint smile. It's all contradictions and impossible choices. Is it always this hard? Usually harder. His arms tightened around me. But we do it together. Always together. Over the following months, the new council solidified. Territory disputes were negotiated instead of fought. Violence decreased. Brooklyn found an uneasy but real peace. I split my time between council meetings and charity work, using my position to help women escaping abuse, funding shelters, and creating programs that gave people alternatives to crime. Dante supported every initiative, proud of the woman I was becoming. At night, we'd retreat to our bedroom, now rebuilt and reinforced, and the world would narrow to just us. His touch, my voice, our love that had survived violence and danger and the impossible complexity of his world. Marry me, he said one night, 6 months after Marco's exile. I looked up from where I'd been tracing patterns on his chest. What? Marry me. He rolled, pinning me beneath him, his eyes intense. Make it official, not just in our world, but in every world. Be my wife. Dante, I know it's fast. I know this life is insane, but I'm certain. His hand cupped my face. I've never been more certain of anything. I want you as my wife, my partner, my equal, forever. Tears burned my eyes. Yes, 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 I'll marry you. I pulled him down into a kiss. I love you. Of course, yes. He made love to me then with such tenderness and passion that I forgot everything except the feel of him, the taste of him, the absolute certainty that this was where I belonged. Afterward, tangled in silk sheets, his ring on my finger, a family heirloom he'd had resized, I felt something I'd never expected to feel again. Safe. Loved. Home. No regrets? He asked quietly. Not one. I pressed my hand to his chest, feeling his heartbeat. You kept your promise. You came back for me. Every time. Always will. He kissed my forehead. You're mine, Solnishko. Forever. And you're mine, I whispered. Outside, Brooklyn slept under a blanket of stars. The city we'd helped transform from war zone to something approaching peace. Inside, each wrapped in the arms of the most dangerous man I'd ever known, I'd never felt safer. This was my life now. Dark, complicated, beautiful, and utterly, completely mine. Epilogue, 6 months later. The wedding was small, private, just the families and a few close allies. Elena cried through the entire ceremony. Victor served as Dante's best man and complained about having feelings. I wore white, which made Dante laugh since nothing about our relationship had been pure or innocent. You're still my light, he'd whispered as we danced our first dance as husband and wife, still the thing that made me believe in something beyond power. And you're still my darkness, I'd replied. The thing that taught me I'm stronger than I knew. Now, months into our marriage, I stood at the mansion window watching dawn break over Brooklyn. Dante's arms wrapped around me from behind, his hand resting on the slight swell of my belly where our daughter grew. What are you thinking? He murmured. That a year ago I was a waitress running from my past, and now I'm married to the most powerful man in Brooklyn, helping reshape the underworld and about to have a baby. I laughed softly. It's absurd. It's perfect. He turned me in his arms. You're perfect. Our life is perfect. Our life is complicated and dangerous and slightly illegal. Perfect, he repeated, kissing me. And maybe he was right. Maybe perfect wasn't safe or simple or pure. Maybe perfect was finding someone worth fighting for, building something worth protecting, and choosing love even when it came wrapped in danger. I'd walked into Rosie's diner a year ago, desperate and hiding. And I'd walked out claimed by a man who taught me that protection didn't have to mean possession. That strength could coexist with tenderness. That love in the darkness could burn brighter than any light. I love you, I said. I know. He smiled against my lips. Я тебя люблю, Solnishko. Now and always. Now and always, I agreed. And as the sun rose over our city, our kingdom, our beautiful, complicated, impossible life, I knew I'd made the right choice. Not the safe choice, not the easy choice, but mine. Forever mine.